Hello, and welcome to today's live stream. I hope you like that little countdown. I thought I would test something new out. My name is Janine Esperand, and I am the founder of Career Changemakers, where we help new and emerging leaders to grow in confidence, influence, and impact. And I'm super excited to be back with you today. We have been doing lives on a Friday over the last few weeks, which has been working very well. Last week and the week before, we did some Q&A sessions where I was answering questions that have been asked by people in my community, coaching clients, and others that I have been speaking to. And today I decided that I would do more of a share type live. So I'm going to talk about leadership, but more specifically self-leadership, because this is a topic that has been coming up in conversation that I think would be helpful for me to talk about. So as you come in, let me know where you're joining from in the chat. Say hey and just write where you're joining from. Even if you're catching this on the replay, let me know. I like this to be interactive as much as possible. And as I'm sharing, if there's anything that resonates, then let me know. Write down what it is that resonates in the chat, or give me thumbs up. And if there are any questions that come up, feel free to post those, and I will either answer them here or I will take them forward for the next Q&A session. So why are we talking about this topic? Self-leadership. I think it's a part of leadership that doesn't always get a lot of attention, right? Or people aren't talking about it as much as I think they should. I think when we think leadership, we talk about the outward aspects of leadership. So like, how are you showing up strategically, and how are you managing your team, and how are you making sure that you're driving business results? And we can think about the tangible results aspect of it. We can think about the skills aspect of it, but not always drilling into what needs to be happening internally for you as a leader, for you to be successful. So today, I want to talk a little bit about self-leadership and why it's so important, particularly if you're somebody who is transitioning. So whether you're transitioning from not having a leadership position to having your first leadership role, or you are in a leadership position and then you are stepping up to that next level, there are shifts that will be happening for you on a mindset level that need to be addressed in order for you to show up fully. Because if you are moving into leadership and you lack clarity around what your vision is, what your goals are, where you're trying to drive things, it can feel like you are trying to lead, but the internal is very unstable, right? It's like, I'm trying to pull everybody in one direction. I'm trying to drive things forward. I'm trying to inspire people to follow me and to listen to what it is that I'm saying. But internally, there's this kind of like movement back and forth, which isn't stable. And because it doesn't feel stable, it's really hard for you to show up in a way where you're like inspiring others to follow. Because the reality is, if you're not sure on where it is you're heading and what you're trying to do, you're likely to be changing your mind and going back and forward, and that doesn't always inspire other people to be like, this person knows what they're doing and that knows what they're talking about. And so you being in a position where you're like, okay, yes, this is what we're doing and I'm confident in that, is really, really important. But the issue with that is, this may be the first time where you've really had the full autonomy to decide where you're going to be focusing your energies. So like, let me explain. When I first moved into running my own business, I was really excited about the autonomy that comes with that. Like, oh, I'm going to run my own business. I can build it how I want to build it. I can do what it is that I want. I can help who I want to help. There's all of this freedom that comes with being in a leadership position. But once you settle into it, you realize that yes, there is lots of freedom, and that freedom can sometimes be overwhelming because you're the person who's making the decisions. You're the person who's deciding what product or what service we're actually pushing. You're the person who's deciding how we're going to set up systems and processes. You're the person who's deciding what the policies and procedures are going to be. And so if you're not sure on what it is you're trying to do and create, it's difficult to make those decisions. It's difficult to put those guardrails in place. And you realize that when you were somebody who was employed by someone else, or you had leadership above you, they were the person making that decision, and they would feed down to you, this is what we're doing, and these are the parameters in which we do them. So I think one of the first things that I needed to adjust to was, oh yeah, I have autonomy. Am I good with that? Do I know how to handle that? Do I know how to make these decisions? And so when you're in a leadership position, recognizing that you've got to get to a place where you're moving away from being used to someone else making decisions, and you're really leaning into making them. And in order to make them, you have to be thinking about what are the things I am basing my decision making on? Like, what decision making matrix am I using? What am I trying to move towards, and why? So I think having that level of clarity and taking the time to really be like, okay, what are we trying to achieve here? And what is the approach that I am going to take to get there? And when you're able to start really bringing in who you are as a person, what your values are, what your strengths are, it means that you can decide on your self-leadership strategy from a place that is aligned to you, that makes sense, right, for who you are and how you show up. You want to get the most out of your unique blend of skills, right, and your unique way of showing up. But the only way you can do that is if you really reflect on it and you really pay attention to it. Because the trap that a lot of people fall into when they move into leadership is they are looking to emulate other people. So they're looking at maybe a mentor or maybe a leader that they really admire, and they're saying, oh, that person did it this way, I really liked how they did it, and so I'm going to do it that way. And whilst that can be effective, it isn't always it's not always satisfying, right? It's not always feeling like, yeah, this is good, because you're always trying to be like, oh, how would they do it? How would that person do it? How would that person do it? And your default is to think about how that person would do it. And that robs you of the opportunity to really lean into, hold on, how do I want to do it based on all of the information that I have, my understanding of the marketplace, the strategy, the goal. How would I do this? Right? What type of leader do I even want to be? Do I want to, there's different leadership styles, right? So how am I leading? Am I going to be very authoritarian? Like, I'm going to say what it is and you guys follow me? Are you going to have more of a coaching style where you're trying to bring people along and get the best out of them as you go? You're going to have a democratic style with your team where you're like, okay, everybody tell me what you think, and then I will make the last call. Really think about what is the approach that makes the most sense for me in this season, in this industry, in this space, given who I am, right? So having the time, or taking the time to really cultivate your self-leadership and really think about what it is that I am going to be doing so that I can help to drive things forward in the right direction, I think is really important. And part of that is having a level of self-awareness. Be aware of what it is that you need. Be aware of maybe what your triggers are, what your insecurities are, because sometimes we can be making decisions not from a place of like, this is definitely what needs to happen, but more from a place of, oh, like, I'm triggered, or I feel insecure, or I feel unsure, so I'm just going to default to this decision. So if you're aware of when you're starting to feel that way, you can pause and be like, okay, what do I need in this moment in order for me to be able to lead better? I think one of the things that is completely underrated is thinking time. Thinking time. Often we're so busy, right? There's so much on the calendar, there's so much to get done, there's so many hours in the day, and there's all of these people that are pulling from different places in terms of demands on you and your time and your energy. But sometimes you need to just think. Like, you need to actually, if you're the person making the decisions, if you're the person who other people are going to be relying upon, if you want to be in a place where you feel sure about the decisions that you're making, you need thinking time. You need to be able to be like, okay, what is actually going on? Why is this happening? Why is that happening? Or how can I make this happen? And in order to do that, you need to think. So as a leader, I am a big proponent of CEO time. Like, you taking out, even if you're not the CEO of the company, you're CEO of your career, you're CEO of yourself, taking out the time where you can just think. So for me, Fridays is normally that day where I have a few things on, not many things on my calendar. I don't tend to take many calls on a Friday. I might do a live stream like this on a Friday, but normally Friday afternoon or Friday morning is where I take some time to just like think, reflect on the week, reflect on what's going on, and then make plans. So when is your time? When is your CEO time? When do you set aside time for you to really think as a leader, and be planning and strategizing how you're leading yourself, so then in turn how you're able to lead your team. I think when you are leading, it's really important to recognize that saying, right, do as I say and not as I do, doesn't really hold true. It doesn't work. It didn't work for me as a kid. It doesn't work for me as an adult. At the end of the day, if you are a leader who has a team and you're trying to inspire people to act a certain way and do certain things, know that they are looking more at what you do than they are listening to what you say. So case in point, with working with an organization that is just very busy, like there's this kind of busyness culture where everyone's just very, very busy. And the leaders are sharing with the people in the team that they need to slow down. They need to take time out. They need to take holiday. They don't want them to burn out. So they need to, do one thing at a time, and they need to make sure that they're focused on what they're doing and not trying to do lots of things. However, certain leaders are showing up where they are not taking holiday and where they are multitasking, where they're on one call, where they're paying attention to something else. And so it's kind of like there's a disconnect for those who are watching, where it's like, okay, on the one hand, you're saying that I need to take time out and I need to like rest and recharge and not burn out. But on the other hand, I'm receiving emails from you at like 1 a.m, or I'm seeing that I had a call booked with you and you're on the call with me, but you're focused somewhere else. So we really have to think about, it's not just about telling people like, this is what we want here within our organization or within our team. This is how we expect you to show up, but yet you're doing it different. But yet you are showing up in a way that is contrary to that. So in order for you to get that alignment between what it is you want your team to be doing and how you are showing up, you first need to make decisions about how you're showing up and then what you expect, and then make sure that there is alignment and there is congruency in the way that you are structuring things and setting things up. So that can even be a reality. I think if you are in a place right now where you are feeling very overwhelmed, or you feel like you are procrastinating a lot, or you find yourself always looking for external validation around what it is you should be doing, then that is an indicator that it's time. It's time to take some time and focus on that self-leadership piece. And it is definitely one of those slow down to speed up situations where it might feel like you ain't got time for this, like I need to just keep cracking on. But ultimately, if you take the time to get into alignment with what is important to you and how you need to be showing up based on your values, based on what's important to you, based on the season, then it's going to make the work that you do so much easier. It's going to make the leadership path that you're on so much smoother. So that's my invitation to you. And I'll give you an example of how this has played out recently for one of my clients. She's somebody who's amazing. She's a high achiever. She's on leadership track, and she's in a place where she's kind of trying to decide, what does she want, like in terms of a leadership role? Where does she want to progress in her career? And she's been feeling very, very overwhelmed. There's a lot going on with her organization, and she's been feeling exhausted. She's been feeling burnt out or on the brink of burnout. And so we've really started with her doing work around like, what does good leadership even look like to you? What is important to you? What are some of the things that you want to be getting from your role? What are aspects of you that you feel like you're not currently able to bring to the table, and why? And so we've really been digging into that. And what's been so phenomenal is within the space of her having one coaching session, we had a couple of weeks between our session, she came back and she was just sharing how her doing this work and really digging into understanding herself and what she needs to be doing for herself as a leader before focusing on the organization has meant that she's been able to show up more authentically. And she's been for a while feeling like I'm not fully showing up as me. Like I feel like I'm trying to put on a show when I'm in certain spaces with certain people. And now, because she's like understanding herself more and what's important to her, she's like, no, actually, I do want to show up more authentically. And I am going to share my opinion in spaces where I wouldn't otherwise share them. And I am going to speak how I speak rather than trying to put on my posh voice, right? And it's been transformational. But the thing that was really interesting is that she said she doesn't feel as tired. She doesn't feel as exhausted because she's able to channel her energy in the things that she needs to focus on in terms of the work, rather than focusing on like using her energy to show up in a way that she thinks she should be showing up. That takes a lot. That takes to wear a mask, to show up and be doing things because you're thinking about what other people are thinking. It takes a lot of energy out of you. So if you find yourself doing that, know that spending time understanding yourself more, understanding your leadership style, your self leadership, prioritizing that is going to make what you're doing on a day-to-day basis more easeful, absolutely more easeful. And that's what I want for you. I want us to be showing up as leaders in spaces and making real impact, because we're bringing our whole selves. We're bringing our whole selves, our skills, our expertise, our experience, everything that we can bring to the table. We're bringing to the table in an unfiltered, like, genuine way. And we can only do that when we're grounded in, like, who are you? What is your leadership approach? What is important? Where are you trying to get to? Understand those things first. So that is what I wanted to share with you today. I think it's super, super important. Let me know in the comments if you resonate with this, if there's any questions that you have. I'm happy to answer them. And while you think about that, I just want to share that I have been impressed to launch a new program around this leadership piece. And it's really going to be around holistic leadership. So looking at the different aspects of leadership that are important for new and emerging and growing leaders. And it's going to be launching next month, I think. Launch date to be announced, but I am sharing this here. If this is of interest to you, send me a DM saying leadership, and I'll tell you more about the program and when it's likely to launch. Super excited about it. I think it's gonna offer the type of container that a lot of female leaders can benefit from. And so, yeah, I'm excited. But yeah, that's what I want to share. I'll be back again next Friday sharing another topic. So do come back. Make sure you're following me so you get notified when I go live. And also join our email community, the Career Navigator email community. So go to www.careerchangemakers.com/Career Navigator. Let me just type it on here for you. I've got it here. Join the email community because we send emails regularly sharing our podcast episodes that are coming out. And then I also share emails that are helpful to you on your career and leadership journey. So I'll leave that with you, and I hope to see you on the next episode of Career Conversations. See you soon. Bye.